Hey, welcome back to the Soul Pod. This is Stacy. Today I want to talk about one of my favorite topics, and I think it's one that you guys seem to love a lot too. I think honestly it applies to everyone in the whole freaking universe. And that's meaning and purpose. Meaning and purpose. I just get a lot of comments on this topic. I get a lot of people asking about it. A lot of great conversations around it as well. There's something about finding our meaning and knowing our purpose, and the whole concept of meaning of life. But if you think about it, meaning of life, this whole concept, that's like the classic ancient question, isn't it? Like, what is the meaning of life? And if you think of all the great philosophers, and they go back to this, wise man sitting on top of a hill, it's almost a caricature. But what's the question they ask him? Well, what's the meaning of life? There is something inherent in us at the very core of us, at the very, very base of who we are, that has a need for meaning. As a, we've always had this from as far back as we go. I can remember being a little kid, and having adults say, "So, what do you want to be when you grow up?" We've all had this moment. We've sometimes been on the asking side. We've sometimes been on the receiving side. And sometimes it's as we get older, as we're getting into a career, people say, "Well, what is it you want to do? What is it you want to be?" In college, that's one of those questions too. Like this whole, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" question gets to the core of this thing. We all want more meaning. We all want purpose. And why is that? Well, Mark Twain said once jokingly that the two most important days in your life are the day that you're born and the day that you find out why. It really gets to that. He was joking when he said that, I think. I think he said that, humorously, because he was a humorist. But the thing that makes something funny like that is the truth to it. The truth to it is, honestly, if you know what it is that you're meant to do here, what you're put here for, it makes life so much better, so much more delicious. And don't we all want that? So today we're going to dive into this topic. We're going to look at it a little more closely. Purpose, purpose, purpose. If we look at the great philosophers, go back to Aristotle. Aristotle talked about telos, which is essentially everything in nature he believed had an end purpose, a meaning, a purpose for which it strives. Everything, grass strives towards its purpose. Trees strive towards their purpose. A possum strives towards its purpose. And people, as individuals, we each have a purpose. Now, you can look at stuff on the great scale of things, grass having a specific purpose as a unit, right? And maybe each blade of grass doesn't have its own particular purpose. And, we see this on some strange level. We get this, that people are individuals. That's one thing that we have that's a little different than the animal kingdom. We're starting to realize that that may not be entirely unique, because there's interesting stuff we're finding out about dolphins naming their young now, which is kind of mind blowing. Talked about in the previous episode. But it seems like the uniqueness of individual to individual. Yes, we do have a purpose. I believe a collective purpose as a species, let's say, human species. I think that there is a greater purpose there. Maybe we'll dive into that another time, because a lot of it's going to, of course, well, it's all going to be speculation. But I believe that it makes sense that, as a unit, we have a purpose. But as an individual unit, we also have a purpose. But what is that? And how do you find it if you don't know what it is? Aristotle also talked about this finding your purpose, finding your meaning, and how doing that can lead to what he called eudaimonia, which is really a flourishing. When you get to that point where you figure out what your meaning, your purpose, your ultimate meaning and purpose is, you can reach eudaimonia. And we can think of eudaimonia now as think of somebody who's living in their purpose. There are certain jobs that are not just jobs. It's not just what you do, but it's who you are. Like a police officer is a good example. A lot of police officers, not everyone, but many. Firefighters and nurses, professional sports figures. There's a lot of different folks who, they don't just do what they do, they are what they do. It is their life, it is their purpose. And these people, when they find these things, that they get up every day and they get to be themselves, and that is their existence. It is their purpose in life. It gives them meaning. And you don't see many more joyous people than the ones who are doing what they feel they were put here to do. The joy is very large, right? That's that eudaimonia thing that you talk about, that Aristotle talked about. And the thing is, though, too, it's not also a destination, meaning like once you find your meaning, your purpose, great, you've arrived. It's not true, because we may have multiple stops along the way. And in fact, we may be living multiple meanings and purposes simultaneously. Let me give you an example. I have a friend who is a minister. He would tell you being a minister is his purpose. He feels very strong about that. But he's also a father. And he would also tell you that being a father is his purpose. He feels very strongly about that. He's also a brother. And that means a lot to him. Being a brother to him is a very huge part of who he is. Now, he's all these things simultaneously, and every single one of them are his meaning and his purpose. And he lives into those every day. And because he lives into those every day, he has a greater sense of joy. He's getting closer to that eudaimonia, right? Now, at some point, let's say, God forbid, his brother dies. So he's no longer technically a brother anymore. That goes away. Or perhaps he retires from being a minister. Now he's no longer a minister. So now he's lost two things there. Now he's a father, and being a father is the one thing he has left. Yeah, that is in his list of purposes. Now what do? Well, you find more purpose. You find more purpose. You go out and you look for it. But isn't that the great question most people are asking nowadays with this meaning crisis that John Vervaeke talks about so much? There is a crisis of meaning, and because of the crisis of meaning, the lack of meaning, people have higher levels of depression. We have higher levels of suicide. We have higher levels of unhappiness, just general unhappiness, anger, discontentment. But when you have meaning and you have purpose, and all these things come together, things are so much better. Friedrich Nietzsche said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." What he means is, if you know why you are here, what your meaning is, what your purpose is, then how you do it, you'll figure it out, because you're driven. At that point, this is who you are. This is who you were put here to be. And when you see somebody that is like that, they're unstoppable. Think of the most achieved people in the world. If you look at someone who's incredibly prolific, Edison, one of the great inventors of all time. There's a lot of things I can pick out about Edison that I didn't like. He was really good at stealing other people's ideas. But at the same time, he was a freaking brilliant mind. And he saw himself as being an inventor, a great inventor. And he only continued to go faster and faster and faster in the development of his inventions. The guy invented an insane number of things, including developing the incandescent light to a level that, we take for granted, this thing we call the incandescent light, but it took a lot of effort to get there. The way that happens is by waking up every day and seeing yourself as that specific thing. I am an inventor. I am an inventor. I am an inventor. I am an inventor. That's the way Edison thought, and he was unstoppable. And there are people now who are incredibly prolific, who are in the public eye, that are destroying it, just tearing it up, because the way they see themselves. When we see ourselves in a specific light, when we see ourselves as a specific person, when we hold ourselves in that regard, we can do amazing things. It's all about what you believe about you. The opposite side of that's true as well. If you have a low opinion of yourself, that needs to change. It's that internal voice that will drag you down. It's that internal voice that'll raise you up. What's your voice telling you? What's it saying to you today? Is it being kind? Is it guiding you? Or is it tearing you down? Or maybe it's somewhere in the middle there. If it is, that's somewhere to grow from, isn't it? So it's important to find some happiness. And finding happiness apparently does have a lot to do with finding meaning. Do you struggle with meaning and purpose? Are you trying to find it? I spent a lot of years looking for meaning and purpose. And it's interesting because it's easy to look at it as something gigantic, something grand, something massive. I've said, though, as I've shown in this episode, that it doesn't have to be. If you do what you love, if you're pursuing something that matters to you, that's enough. It's a great start. And it's a lot to build on, in fact. If you're looking for help in finding your meaning and purpose, I may be able to help you. If there's a link in the show notes, I'm currently taking clients. In my coaching business, I have more people that struggle with this problem than any other. When people find meaning and purpose, happiness goes up, contentment goes up, overall joy with life goes up. So if you're looking to check that out, and there's a link, it'll take you to a page where you can schedule a free 30-minute info call. Be happy to answer any questions for you. And if we fit, we'll start working on this with you. But what are you doing today to find your meaning and purpose? As a jumping off point, look into the idea of ikigai. That's how it's spelled. Look it up. It's a great concept. It'll help you start to triangulate what you're put here to do. And it may give you exactly what you're looking for, that reason to wake up every morning, that reason to keep going, the thing that fuels your day. Thanks for being here. I appreciate all of you. Please share the comments if you have any. Love this community. You guys are great. I love the conversations I'm watching you guys have back and forth with each other about some of these topics. Share what you know. If you have any concerns, complaints, additions, please share those as well. If you haven't checked out the Soul podcast, please check that out. I'll leave a link in the show notes. It's longer versions of things like this, as well as some really great toolbox episodes with spiritual and personal growth tools to add to your spiritual growth toolbox. Thanks for being here, and I'll talk to you guys very, very soon.